Welcome to No Filter with Grady and Paul.
Paul, what's the deal? So, I was recently on the arrest page.
Yes.
And I saw your picture.
Right.
What's the deal?
Well, I got divorced 6 years ago.
Right.
And last year we finally went to court.
Right.
And there is an amount of money that's been highly contested between the two parties.
Uh-huh.
I feel like it's been paid tenfold. They feel like it hasn't been. And they had great legal representation. I had great representation. The judge followed the law, and I found myself at Purgatory for 48 hours.
Now, I heard that you can't go to jail for a civil matter. What's the deal?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, because in principle I refused to pay the debt, they filed an order to show cause.
Right.
The court found me in contempt, and so he put me. I had to check myself in.
Right. Okay, so recently you had some revelations while you were in there. And let's talk about those.
Well, you get in there and you actually meet a lot of great guys.
Right.
And these guys come from so many backgrounds, and 90% of these guys were in there for drugs. And so I thought it would be good to have a panel on the war on drugs. Does it work? Is it effective? Right. Is it ineffective?
Love it. Love it.
Yeah. So with no further ado, let's introduce our panel.
Bring them out. Paul, we have a great panel today. Who do we have?
Yes, we do. We have Deputy Sheriff Zach Tuttle. We have Aaron Ward from Steps Recovery. And we have Tyler Todd from One Law. Thanks for being here, guys.
Happy to be here.
So, the war on drugs. Now, I've watched a lot of documentaries recently that said it's failed. It's been, it's complete failure. And I know that we have some programs here like Drug Court. Give us a little background on how that got started and where it's at today.
I was working at Southwest Center I've been there many, many years, and in 2000, we found that probation and the courts wanted to do a drug court. They wanted to lower the recidivism, and they wanted to do something different instead of locking everybody up. So they started drug court with a probation officer and Judge Shoemate and Southwest Center, and we contracted. So if drug addiction is a crime, then we have a problem. If drug addiction isn't a crime, it's a disease. So we have to look at it differently. How do you treat that? How do you get people the treatment they need to stay out of jail? If you get somebody sober, they're not going to go to jail. That's what I've found over the years.
Now, Tyler, recently there was a law passed just this last legislative season. Can you talk about that, expound on that a little bit?
Well, just last month, it's HB 348, House Bill 348. And essentially, because it has been an issue, not only in Utah, but across the country, drugs it's a big deal, and it's affecting communities and certainly affecting Washington County. And so our legislature, and I think there's probably a lot of good things behind it, said, what can we do to decrease recidivism? How do we stop repeat offenders? Mm-hmm. And something we had talked about before going on, the sentences seem too severe, too long. A lot of these guys, gals are in jail for too long for drug possession or drug charges. What can we do to help them?
Let me add to that. It felt like when I was in there that it was like the law of diminishing returns. So the first ice cream cone's great, but the 10th ice cream cone in the same hour is disgusting. You never want to eat ice cream again. And it felt like maybe there's a certain period of time for these guys that it's very effective. But then after so much time, all hope gets lost, and they learn how to become better drug dealers and find cheaper narcotics.
Well, the question is, why aren't there more people in drug court? If it's so effective and you see it helping people, why are there so many people in jail as opposed to drug court?
When we started drug court at 15 clients, when I left, there was 100. And it was about funding, and it was about trackers. We had trackers. We had Washington County Sheriffs as trackers, and they would keep an eye on all the clients. We have, I believed at the time, the best drug court in the state. We were the toughest. We had Judge Shoemate at the time. And things were a lot different. What I see nowadays, because working at Steps Recovery Center, what I see nowadays, I spend a lot of time in the courts. I spend a lot of time out of jail. I was in jail on Easter Sunday. I was out.
So were you?
Sunday.
That's right. It was wonderful. We had an egg hunt.
Most, if not all, our clients have done jail time. I spend about 50% of our clients are either coming from jail or going to jail, and it's because of drug crimes. And so, again, is it a disease? Is it something you can conquer by locking them up? What I've seen maybe 2 weeks to a month is effective. After that, you lost them.
Officer Tuttle, you have a different perspective possibly than these guys, because you have a different conceptual lenses by which you see the whole matter. Can you weigh in on this a little bit?
I think it's important to distinguish addiction as a crime versus crimes that are committed out of motivation from the addiction.
Right.
What I mean by that is, say an addict who's going through that trial will go and rob, bank robbery, stealing from their parents, or
Pretty standard.
Yeah.
Pretty standard.
Things that you generally associate with addiction.
Right.
So that's when it crosses the line. Goes from being a user, where it's just self-inflicted.
But how do you distinguish if it's a drug crime or if it's a violent crime when both are involved? And how do you pick what's going to be drug court at that point?
See, the thing is that oftentimes the offender isn't a victim of their own addiction. They're not the only victim there.
Right.
You have others who have been victimized, either through having things taken from them or violent crimes, drug deals gone wrong.
Does everyone get a chance at drug court that's been involved, or is it?
No, that's important. If there's a screening process for anybody, especially Steps Recovery Center or drug court, we won't take violent offenders. What I mean by that is you're dealing with an antisocial. If you have somebody who comes in as antisocial, they want to make money. They're out there. They usually don't do the product that they're selling.
Right.
It's all about the money.
Cartel stuff.
Drug addicts will sell and be that person on this side that needs the money. They're going to sell so they can do their product for free. It appears they're the antisocial, but they're really not.
And I think, just to back to your original question, that's the purpose of the bill, is to get those people that are lifters or pushers to hopefully get them into rehab versus keep them in jail for a long period of time. So there's a difference between violent offenders, violent drug users versus those that have a disease and need the help.
What are some final words that you have on this subject? And we'll start with Officer Tuttle.
I believe institutionally we're doing what we can with the powers that have been given us. There's always room to improve. Identifying those people, those offenders who want to get better but are having a hard time. I think we're doing what we can there. But again, there's always room to improve and get better.
We were talking earlier, whether you're a constitutionalist, libertarian, jail is not the best place for an addict, but it's effective to keep them from dying. This heroin epidemic we're running through right now, kids are dying left and right. And so if they commit a crime and they're in jail, it's highly unlikely that they're going to die in jail. It happens once in a while, but it's rare. So in treatment, I can see jail being effective up to a certain point. But for an addict, it's costing a fortune to keep people in jail just because of addictions.
And I'm curious to see how House Bill 348 is going to come down with reducing charges and reducing sentences and whatnot. Regardless of any of that, I think from my perspective, everyone has rights. So however you are into that system and where you stand in regards to how to treat that individual has rights. And so from my perspective, it's, hey, talk to an attorney, make sure those rights are protected, and then from there, we'll see how that system's going to affect you.
And we want to thank our panel today.
guys.
What a great discussion we had.
Great discussion.
And
That's the deal.